Okay. Can can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's get started then. Um, so my name is Marvin Lin, and I'm a co-vice president at Play Foundation. If you're new to Play Foundation, it's a local organization based in the Tri-Valley area that gives the youth opportunities to express their ideas and to make contributions to the community that are both meaningful and helpful. Play Foundation has a variety of subgroups, including music, math, uh, the mobile library, health, tutoring, Bakeology, speech and debate, coding, language VIC, and the Play Environmentalist group. We aim to provide a platform for our subgroups to grow and to make positive impact by helping them promote and organize events. Play Foundation members are welcome to join any subgroup to learn, explore, and to have fun. We also encourage our members to create their own subgroup that matches with their own personal interests. Play Foundation hosts many events throughout the year. Starting in August, there's going to be the annual Labor Day hiking event, the Play Gala in September, the Thanksgiving Open Heart Kitchen Service in November, the Family Giving Tree Gift Drive near Christmas, and the annual concert in March. So today we're going to have this writing seminar to kick off our 7th Play Foundation Essay Contest, which is an annual event encouraging members to express their thoughts in innovative writing with the given topics regarding social and political issues. Okay, so these are the awards for this year's contest. We have 3 age groups: elementary, middle, and high school. Um, all participants will get a Meadowlark Dairy ice cream token for signing up, and all awards will be presented at the annual gala in September. So yeah, you can see first place gets $25. There's 2 second place winners, each getting $15, and 2 third place winners getting $10 each. And this is the information for the essay this year. So the basic requirements. We'll email them out to you with the prompts later tonight. So make sure you read them carefully. You don't have to like memorize them here or anything. So yeah, just take a look at these. Okay, and so this year, the essay contest is quite different from previous years. With us today is Mr. Alex Chertok, founder of Joy Writing. Alex is an accomplished writer who achieved his master's degree in creative writing from Cornell University. We're all very honored to have Alex as our head judge this year and to have Joy Writing be a sponsor of the essay contest. Alex has generously offered to revamp the essay contest and has created a diverse list of comprehensive prompts for all 3 age groups. We're going to announce this year's topics towards the end of the seminar. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat, and we will have a brief Q&A session at the end of the seminar. Now, let's welcome Mr. Alex Chertok.
Thank you, Marvin. And thank you, EJ, for having me here. I'm going to share my screen, Marvin, if that's okay. Which may require me to, okay, there we go. And I know some of you here. Some of you are actually my students. Some of you are the students of other tutors. I see some of Sophia's students. I know who you are. I see you, Matthew. And some of you may be working with some other of my tutors too. It's such a joy to see all of you. I'm going to share my screen. I know I only have about 30 minutes, and how can I possibly fit into 30 minutes all that makes up a good essay? Well, I'm going to try my best. I want to share with you, I want to start by sharing with you probably the best advice that I've ever received. And it's by this man. He's a very famous novelist. His name is Colin McCann. I'll condense a long story. He was visiting Cornell as a guest speaker. He's a very famous author who I had requested to visit my class. And I knew that it was a long shot. He was so famous that I thought I had no chance of ever getting him into my small 18-student discussion class, a freshman writing class. Well, it turns out that he was available to visit my class for half an hour, and I was ecstatic. And he came in, and he looked exactly like this, like his picture. He was cool. He had this scarf draped around his neck, very fashionable. He had a beautiful Irish accent, what they call an Irish brogue. And he said something, he said this, which I vowed to remember, and I vowed to teach to every one of my students, and I'm including it here. He said, don't write what you know. I can't see all of your faces, but I'm assuming that if I ask you, raise your hand if you've ever been told that you should write what you know. I assume that a lot of you would raise your hands. Yeah, right. I mean, I see Marvin raising, I see Leo raising. There are, I'm sure, a lot of students who've been told, and this is not necessarily wrong information, but we've probably been told that we should write what we know. Colin McCann came into my class and said, don't do that. Instead, write towards what you want to know. I thought about this and it sounded to me like wisdom, because what do we know? We only know so much. What we know is limited. What we want to know is unlimited. Oftentimes our essays begin with questions or with things that we want to pursue, things that we want to figure out. So don't limit yourself only to what you know. Write towards what you want to know. What does this advice mean to me? It means be open. And I've broken this down in a very simple PowerPoint slide, and I'll go through each one. Write towards what you want to know. That means, to me, be open to surprise and discovery. Who here, and again, I know I can't see your faces, but the teacher in me is compelled to ask you this question. Who here, and feel free to raise your hand digitally, who here likes to make an outline or a plan? Some kind of pre-writing before you actually compose the essay. Maybe you all of you have been instructed and required to write an outline by some teachers. I'm sure some people in here really dislike writing an outline. You could be honest, but it can oftentimes be very useful to do as a plan. However, don't feel like you need to stick to the outline or plan that you've written. Your ideas will grow and change and morph and transform over the course of composition. Your ideas are never written in stone. Yeah, sometimes my greatest ideas have come about a week into writing the actual essay, that I didn't know what the big conclusion or insight was going to be when I set out to write the essay. You know, novelists don't know oftentimes, actually most novelists don't know how their novels will end. It is a complete mystery to them. They only learn how their novels will end by writing it and by experimenting and by failing and by trying again. So make a plan, but don't feel like it's a failure if you deviate from that plan. Oftentimes writers are constantly changing the plan as they go. Be open to your feelings. Listen to and trust how you react to an idea, even if it's opposite of what you think you should feel. And I don't know if I have the power to mute certain students. Maybe Marvin and EJ does. If you ever want to share your voices, please do. But if you're not speaking, make sure to mute your computer, just because I'm hearing some background noise. It would be helpful if you do. Thanks. So let's say that you see a movie with your family, and the rest of your family loved it, and you thought it was the worst, and that you really found it boring. Trust your feelings. Trust that the way you feel about the movie, for example, is right. Even if everyone else loves it, if you don't love it, trust that. Trust that your feelings are leading you in the right direction. Be open to your feelings. Be open to your senses. This is just basic good writing 101. Every writing teacher on earth will tell you to use your senses. Have you ever been told this? Has a teacher ever said, be descriptive, include sensory detail, Think about what the thing you're writing about looks, feels, sounds, tastes, and smells like. That's just using concrete language to show instead of tell. I tell this to all of my students, from the third graders up through the college students. Include sensory detail. Think about how your senses are responding to this thing and describe it that way. Be open to other perspectives. Consider what your opponent believes. Now, of course, this is referring to essays that are opinion-based, because I've included a lot of different prompts. Some of them are personal, in which there's no right or wrong answer, or no one would disagree with what you're writing. And there are some news-related prompts that some people could disagree with, that would be disputable. If you believe one thing, as you're researching the essay, consider what your opponent believes. Think about someone who would disagree with your outlook. Why would they disagree? Try to inhabit their mindset. Does anyone know what that is? What that word is? The ability to understand or identify with another perspective? If you do, feel free to write it in the chat box. I'll give you a second to think. The ability to think like someone else, to put yourself in their shoes. That's called empathy. It's what we require in writers. It's what we require in all of our friends, isn't it? What makes a good writer is oftentimes what makes a good person. Kindness, humor, imagination, empathy. Think about why someone would disagree with your position, and then try to see things through their perspective. The best writers and thinkers on earth are able to empathize with how their opponent would feel. And then finally, be open to feedback to your writing. Being able to accept criticism or to admit you're wrong is the mark of an evolved writer and person. I am always most impressed with students who don't get defensive when I give them feedback, who kind of accept the feedback and and thank me for it, even if they don't agree with it. Students who accept the feedback and consider it. I also have students who get very defensive and try to explain why they're right. When I think what most impresses me is when students receive and accept the feedback, whether it comes from a teacher, a parent, a friend. Be open. Don't write what you know, write towards what you want to know. An essay is an exploration. Your perspective should grow from the beginning to the end of your writing process. What insights or ahas can you reach in your writing? Think about that. Like every paragraph that you write, and when I'm judging the contest, I'm looking out for this. Every paragraph should have a moment that impresses me, or that stuns me with how smart or how insightful it was. Think about how can you make your essay grow like that? Sometimes students include their strongest ideas in the beginning, and then the rest of the essay seems to repeat it over and over and over again. And the essay doesn't grow. It doesn't crescendo. Are there any musicians here? I'm sure that some people know what that word crescendo means. To gain volume, to gain momentum. I love reading essays that continues to stun me with every paragraph. And again, you may reach these amazing aha insights only as you go and not at the beginning. We write towards what we want to know. I was asked by EJ, and I think this is a very smart request, to talk about how to conduct good research. And I want to talk about this for a little bit. And then I want to share with you a paragraph from a published personal essay that I find to be very descriptive and would be a great model for any of your work. But first, when you're doing research, to consider your source's credibility, ask these questions. And by the way, I'm so used to conducting classes as a discussion. It's very unnatural to me that I'm giving a lecture, because normally I present a slide and then I open it up to students. Like I pull their voices in. So the fact that my voice is the only one here, I feel like the discussion is missing other voices. But of course, I'm happy to be giving this lecture. So ask yourself these questions. So to make sure that your source is credible, that means reliable, that it's not that it doesn't contain misinformation or wrong information. So consider the author. Has the author written several other articles on the topic? And does this author have the credentials to be an expert in their field? If your author is a professor, if the author of the article that you find online is a professor or a researcher or a scientist or any scholar, chances are that means that they are very reliable. If the author of an article is some guy writing from their basement, their opinions on a blog, it's not usually as reliable, of course. Ask yourself this question about the publisher or the website. What do you know about the publisher or the website? Are they well respected? Do their other articles generally appear credible? And to me, and I'm sure that you've been told this before, what makes a reliable website? Usually ends in .org, .gov, and .edu. Do we know what these stand for? .org stands for an organization, usually an organization that is whose job it is to conduct research. I know that Wikipedia is a .org. I always have students who say, well, Wikipedia is a .org. Are they reliable? We all know that they're not. We all know that Wikipedia, it can be revised by any of us. It's a great source for the immediate information. If I'm ever wondering, well, how old is this person? I would Wikipedia that, but it's never good, I think, for the academic essay. .gov, of course, is a government site. Do I believe everything that the government tells me? Generally not, but government websites tend to be very reliable. And of course, .edu sites are usually affiliated with colleges or universities and are written mostly by professors or scholars in the field. So limit your research, I'd say, to those. But of course, NPR, also that's a .org, CNN.com, NewYorkTimes.com, those would also be fine and reliable websites. Ask yourself these other questions about the author's bias. Does the author or the organization have a bias or a kind of discrimination or a prejudice that feels unfair or wrong to you? Think about the purpose of the article too. Is the purpose of the article to inform you? That's generally good. Is it to entertain you? Is it to persuade you? Is it to spread an agenda? Generally, articles that seek to inform are the ones that I trust the most. And finally, to consider your source's credibility, think about how current the article is. When was the source published or updated? Is there a date shown? See, at this point in my classes, I would say, are there any questions? But time is limited, and we have so many students here that I think that, oh, actually, of course, there's a Q&A at the end. So, of course, if you have any questions, put those Qs in the chat box, and I can hope to address them later. And I'll, of course, share this with you, or I'll share it with the Play Foundation to share with you afterwards. And I refuse to bore you with the rules and regulations about how to format your bibliography. It is important, but I'm going to skip over that. And I'm going to let the Purdue University website instruct you instead. And I've given you the website there. You can also try easybib.com. That's a reliable site as well to guide you in all of your bibliography formatting needs. Okay. Now, of course, what I'm most excited about is sharing with you good writing. Because all that I've shared with you before are my notes. Not very beautifully written. This to me is a beautifully written essay. If any of you submit an essay that sounds like this, of course, it doesn't have to sound exactly like this, but if it sounds as richly descriptive as this, you'd be in good shape. So the following is the first page of Rick Bragg's autobiography, All Over But the Shoutin'. Now, there may actually be students in here who have seen this before from other tutors. And this autobiography, All Over But the Shoutin', is about growing up poor in the backwoods of Georgia. Bragg won the 1996 Pulitzer Prize for feature writing. And we all know that autobiography is a biography about the self, written by Rick Bragg himself. We can even start analyzing this by the title. Look at the title. The title is not All Over But the Shouting. Isn't it significant that it's all over but the shoutin'? What does that say? How can we immediately start analyzing this essay before we even enter it? The title itself tells us what? It tells us perhaps that the author is trying to write about his true, authentic experience. Because who would sound like this, shouting? Only someone who perhaps would grow up in a certain southern part of the United States. Maybe he's trying to capture how life really was, how people really talked in that part of the country. Trying to capture his true experience instead of trying to write a very fancy academic paper. Instead, this is a true memoir about his life. We can already make sense of that from the title. Let me read this, and then we'll talk about, hopefully you can even lend your voices to sharing what makes this such a descriptive piece of writing. And it's only 4 sentences long, if you can believe it. My mother and father were born in the most beautiful place on earth, in the foothills of the Appalachians along the Alabama-Georgia line. It was a place where gray mists hid the tops of low, deep green mountains, where red-bone and blue-tick hounds flashed through the pines as they chased possums into the sacks of old men in frayed overalls, where old women in bonnets dipped Brutton snuff and hummed Faded Love and Winter Roses as they shelled purple hulls, canned peaches, and made biscuits too good for this world. It was a place where playing the church piano loud was nearly as important as playing it right, where fearless young men steered long black Buicks loaded with yellow whiskey down roads the color of dried blood, where the first frost meant hog-killing time, and the mouth-watering smell of cracklins would drift for acres from giant bubbling pots. It was a place where the screams of panthers, like a woman's anguished cry, still haunted the remote ridges and hollows in the dead of night, where children believed they could choke off the cries of night birds by circling one wrist with a thumb and forefinger and squeezing tight, and where the cotton blew off the wagons and hung like scraps of cloud in the branches of trees. Whew. Those are some long sentences, aren't they? There is so much detail packed into those sentences. If I were to ask you, all of you, how would you describe the writing? I bet you that some of you would use the word descriptive. Doesn't this writing come across to us as beautifully descriptive? What makes it so descriptive? Because as writers, we're always questioning. If ever we like something, it's never enough to say, I like this. Writers are always pursuing questions like, why do I like it? What is so likable? How can I write words that are this likable to a reader of my own? Like we're always kind of restless in our search for meaning, in our curiosity. What makes this so descriptive? And feel free, I don't know if anyone has access to or any desire to write in the chat box, but feel free to write in the chat box about what you find makes this so descriptive. And I can start sharing with you my ideas. Actually, I'm going to give you 10 seconds. If any of you would like to write in the chat box, I know that this paragraph contains a lot of information. It's a lot to digest. What makes this writing so descriptive to you? What is the author's secret? The good answers are already coming. A wide range of objects and activities. Yes, thank you. What else? Because it's quite easy to say, oh yes, very descriptive. It's harder to explain why. And of course, I like to ask students challenging questions. Yes, Rick Bragg, he used a lot of adjectives to describe. Absolutely. Look at this line over here. They flashed through the pines as they chased possums into the sacks of not men, but old men, in not just overalls, but frayed overalls. Not just hulls, but purple hulls. Not just men, but fearless young men. There are so many productive adjectives here. It is so rich with adjectives. Good. More answers are coming. I can barely keep up. The movement living things are doing. Yes, right. This paragraph is so energetic and so fast moving. They added a lot of details to their writing so you can really understand it better. That's right. I'm going to add a word to that. not only details, but sensory details. This to me is the secret of what makes this paragraph to me so beautiful. Sensory detail. Every one of our senses are awakened from this paragraph. We have a sense of taste, don't we? Canned peaches and made biscuits too good for this world. We can taste that. We have a sense of smell. And the mouth-watering smell of cracklins would drift for acres from giant bubbling pots. Some of you are saying, what in the world is a cracklin? Does anyone know? I had to look this up when I first encountered it. It's the skin of a pig. It's pork rind, which may sound disgusting to us, but it's actually a very popular snack. It's a very popular treat in certain regions of the country, particularly in the South. Although I live, I should have told you this from the start. Does anyone know where I'm calling from? Most of you are from California. I'm way far away from there. I'm calling 2,000 miles away in New York. It's very late at night. The sky is completely dark here. It's nighttime. It's past my bedtime. We even have cracklins that are sold at my local grocery store. So they're kind of a popular snack. So we have a sense of taste. We have a sense of smell. We have a sense of touch. It's so many tactile images. I like this one especially, where children believed they could choke off the cries of night birds by circling one wrist with a thumb and forefinger and squeezing tight. Isn't that a strange image? Some of you may be thinking, are they killing the night birds? No, they're not. This is like a little superstition that the children are doing. Can you imagine holding your wrist up, circling it with a thumb and a forefinger and squeezing tight, almost like a fantasy? Like, oh, I wish I could just quiet those birds. And by choking their wrist, they're almost imagining choking the birds. That gives us a sense of touch, a sense of sound. That is certainly awakened in a detail like this, where the screams of panthers, like a woman's anguished cry. Isn't that kind of a haunting image? This author could have written this. It was a place where the screams of panthers, like a woman's beautiful song. He didn't. He wanted to give an image of darkness and of pain, even. We can really hear the sound of a woman's anguished cry. And of course, we have so much visual imagery. Did you notice how many times a color was mentioned here? Whenever I put this paragraph on the Google Doc with my students, I always ask them to highlight every time a color is mentioned in the color that it is. And after they do this for about a minute, we step back and we look at this paragraph and it looks like a beautiful canvas. It is so colorful. And the writer knew what he was doing. He wanted to paint a portrait of his city using language. Look at what we have. We have gray mists. We have deep green mountains. These are the names of dogs, but they still contain colors, right? Red bone and blue tick hounds. We have purple hulls. Even peach is a color, isn't it? We have black Buicks. We have yellow whiskey. We have the color of dried blood. We have the dead of night. We have scraps of cloud, cotton blowing off wagons. It is so rich in visual imagery. Whenever you are in doubt in your own writing and you're thinking, I'm stuck. What now? Who here has ever been stuck in their writing? Everyone's going to raise their hand. You should raise your hand. It is a human. Any writer who has never been stuck is lying or is not writing in the correct way, I think. Every one of us gets stuck. How do we break out of it? We break out of it, to me, by asking ourselves questions, asking questions to ourselves that we then venture to answer, and by focusing on the concrete sensory detail of whatever we're describing. What does it look like, taste like, smell like, feel like, smell like? I may have said smell twice. So description is simply the most invaluable thing to me in any kind of essay, whether it's persuasive or analytical. And certainly something that I'll be looking out for in my judging. In addition, of course, to all of the beautiful insights that you come to on your own. Now, if there are any other comments or questions to make, I'm so glad that some of you wrote in the chat box. I'm thankful for that. If there are any other comments to make in the chat box, please do. Otherwise, I'm mindful of the time, and I want to give us enough time to go over what the prompts are, and then to have the Q&A if there are any Qs. So that takes me to the end of my seminar here. EJ or Marvin, feel free to join to share what my creations are in terms of the prompts, which I tried to make challenging and fun, which may sound cheesy, but it's true. I tried to make them challenging and fun, something that would bring you pleasure to write, something that may even teach you something about yourself in writing. Okay, so I'll pause here.
All right, then. So I'll share my screen with that prompt. Here we go. Present. Okay. So these are the news-based prompts. You can read through these right now, but they'll be emailed to you later as well. Okay, and after this one, after these 3 news-based prompts, there are 5 personal prompts. And yeah, these ones will be sent to you guys as well. Okay. Well, that should be it for the prompts. Let me stop sharing here. See, do we have any questions? Let me see if I have any in my chat. Okay, so I got one question. So it's how where do you join classes for joy writing?
Good question. Maybe I can share the website, and I can put that in the chat box, and EJ and the Play Foundation perhaps can share this as well to other members. But that's the website. Of course, I teach classes, and we have about 10 other tutors, including Sophia. Sophia teaches some of you here. We have 10 tutors in total who are teaching classes. Every instructor, along with me, has their MFA, their Masters in Fine Arts, from a respected graduate school. And they have a lot of teaching experience and tutoring experience.
Okay, here's one that was just sent in the chat. So it's will you be sharing your email for writing questions? Yeah.
I don't know the protocol. I mean, I suppose that I will leave it up to Marvin and EJ to decide. I don't know what the protocol has been in past years. But I would be happy to answer questions that are related to the essay.
Hi, I'm EJ. So so for the question, I think with the prompts, which will be emailed to every one join today's seminar, we will email that to you, and we will not ask Alex and his tutor to give like advice for writing before the students submit their essays. So because we want them to be original. And then after they submit their essays, I think our judges will read them, review them, and give some comments. I think that will be the time they will get some advice from our judges, including Alex and then his wonderful tutors.
Right, that's right, EJ. Thank you for that. And all of these submitted essays will get some feedback, some general comments made to it for the students to learn from. I was also just sent a question directly, which I can read aloud. They write, will there be some kind of sample essay where we can see what formatting or other things you want in the essay? No, I have no plans of that. And I think I'm going to go back to what EJ said. I am so eager to read your original thoughts without trying to fit into like a template, without trying to fit into what you think makes, I want you to write what you think makes a good essay, not trying to copy the formatting of something that you think will impress me. And I believe that EJ, the Play Foundation, will send out a rubric, how these essays are being evaluated. Is that true?
Yes, we can actually share some previous years essays that written by our graduating, those already graduated seniors. And also those like award-winning essays. So we're gonna share those with our members this year. They're totally different topics from this year, but you can learn something from their essays. Yeah.
Good. That's a good idea. There's some other questions coming in. Yeah, one asks if the kids write something else, can they communicate with any tutor? Or how to join the writing club? So I'm also happy to share my my WeChat information or my email address. I can actually share that. Or EJ, what would you recommend? Will you be sending out that information to community members?
Yeah, I think with the prompts, we will send out your contact information, and then we're going to share your WeChat account with parents. I think most likely parents ask the question.
Sure.
And then also, I think for the question, if kids writing something else, can they communicate with any tutor? If you already have a tutor, definitely you can seek for some help or some like proofread with the tutors that you currently have. So yeah. Of course, you can get some help from your siblings, from parents, of course, but eventually it will be the original work from the student themselves.
I just got another question, which I think is very, well, Jerry has asked, when is the essay due? That maybe we can address that right now.
Yeah, Marvin, maybe you can pull out the slides, some basic requirements, and then the due date, and then words requirements.
Okay, yeah. Let me reshare.
Because some people joined late, they didn't see them.
Okay. Share screen.
I think it's August 10th.
Okay. August.
Right.
Yeah.
Very good. Impressive.
I'll just keep this information on here if anyone needs it.
And while this is on, there was another question that I wanted to address, and I tried addressing this very briefly before, but someone asks, how do you unstuck yourself when getting stuck?
Brilliant question.
Yeah, I wish that I had like the answer to that, because then writing would be easy for me. I want everyone to listen to what I'm about to say. I want every single one of you to listen to what I'm about to say. Writing for me is profoundly hard. You hear what I just said? I have decades of writing experience. I teach writing. I was a professor at university. I tutor students. Writing to me is profoundly difficult. I think that the better you are at writing, the more you realize how difficult it really is. I think that sometimes writing comes very easily. That's very rare. There are some published writers who have said, I wrote this poem or this essay in one night, and I almost felt like it was a gift from the heavens, because normally it takes months and months of crafting and revising and anger and frustration. So I don't have the answer to this question, but I have accounts of how other writers have handled it and how I handle it too. If you're stuck, what do? Well, one way is to walk away. Walk away from the piece. If you've been looking at it, and of course, if this thing is due the next day, you don't have that privilege. But if you get started early on whatever you're writing about and you are stuck, put it down, close the laptop, open a book, start reading. You don't even have to read about writing. You can read about art. You can even, if you're allowed, you can turn the TV on. You can take a walk. You can play a sport. Give your mind a break, because oftentimes when you're stuck and you try to force your mind to feel inspired, it's not going to work. So to unstuck yourself, I think you need to be generous to yourself and to give yourself a break. And then sometimes when you return to the essay with fresh eyes, an hour later, a day later, a week later, it oftentimes feels like you're a different person and that you're seeing it better, more clearly. Of course, you can have conversations. You can ask for feedback from you can talk about it. When I was a professor at college, I would have something called office hours. Maybe some of you have this with your own teachers. And just having a conversation with my students in which I don't even offer advice. I just ask them questions. And sometimes by asking the right questions, I open up something in them. And they feel like, oh, okay, now I've got it. And they leave satisfied, even though I've done nothing. I haven't helped them at all except ask the right questions. Maybe find the person who can question you about your work to open up something that was closed to you. Oh, but there are 1,000 different ways to unstuck yourself, and every writer has their own opinion on what works. Ooh, how many people will enter the contest? Thousands. No, I don't know. Does Marvin or EJ know how many applicants we're expecting?
So I think we hope anyone join today's seminar will submit their essay, and we definitely will actually welcome other members or non-members to submit their essay. But based on the current judges that we have, I think we're gonna limit the number to like 50 participants, because we don't want to burden our judges by just like grading or commenting on too many essays. Yeah.
Right.
So make sure that you submit your essay as soon as you can, not wait until the deadline. So it will be a first come, first serve.
Are there any other questions? Really think. I mean, now's your chance to ask a question that may have been nagging at you about writing. I'll answer it as best I can. This is your chance.
Yeah, don't be shy, and
No.
you will get the best answers you can get if you ask a question now. Trust me.
Oh, the pressure's on. Oh boy. Don't ask too hard of a question now. Yeah. Be gentle here. What if I don't know what to write? A student just asked that. Another good question that every one of you is probably thinking deep down privately to yourself. What if I don't know what to write? I think that to expect you to have an idea right away, right now, even though you've only just seen these ideas, is unrealistic. You cannot expect yourself to have any inspiration just yet. You have to be patient with yourself. If you don't know what to write, I'd say dump out as many possible ideas as you can onto a piece of paper. Don't hold back. Don't censor yourself. Don't limit yourself. Don't aim for beautiful writing. Beauty is not the goal here. It's just dumping out every possible idea that you can think of, and then you can start narrowing it down. And then maybe you can start, again, asking yourself questions about any one of the ideas that you think have potential. But overall, don't feel like if no idea is coming to you now, then you're in trouble. That's not how writing works. Writing requires a lot of patience. But here is something I would say. Start thinking about this as constantly as you can. And now I'm not talking about I don't want your life to be dominated by thinking about this, but I want you every so often to think about this prompt. I want you to read this over when you can. And then like spend some time every day thinking about it. Give yourself a chance to feel inspired and to form an idea. It's not going to happen overnight, but I think if you devote time every day, it's kind of like exercise that like you will strengthen whatever muscle it is required to come up with the idea. So regular and consistent brainstorming, and I'd say you're guaranteed to come up with your idea. There are a lot of other questions coming in too. Possible to take all the essays before the deadline. Perhaps EJ, you can answer that, as well as maybe the next one. Are the essays graded by category, personal and news-based separately? And Play Foundation says the essays will be graded by age group. Okay.
So I think you can choose any prompts from all 8 listed, and write, pick anyone just to write. Or if you want, you can, I don't know, you can pick 2, which will increase the chance to win.
That's true.
Yeah.
Also, can you submit more than 1 essay? Wow.
Yeah.
you answer that question. Right, but that's amazing that you answered the question before it was even asked. Yeah, like 1 news-based and 1 personal. Right.
Yeah,
and
why not? Yeah.
And they're very different kinds of questions that I've formed. It requires different kinds of creativity. If the organizer thinks it will be too many, can we have a sign-up process so kids will not worry that their essays will not be accepted?
Okay, good question. So we will actually keep the process open, and we will have a, I think we'll have an RSVP. So once we hit the limit of like 50, we will close the RSVP form so that you know that it's being reached the limit. So that is the way to keep everyone kind of on the same page. So yeah, but I don't think you should worry too much. Yeah, just try like start early, and I'm pretty sure that you will get the spot.
Some students are feeling ambitious enough to write 3, possibly. Wow, that's a lot of writing. And perhaps EJ, you at any point, not now, because perhaps this needs to be brainstormed, but how to address the really ambitious student who's looking to submit multiple essays.
I think right now it's just assumption. So when it actually happens, we can talk about it.
Okay, right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, submit your 3 first, and then we can give you the answer.
Yes, that's a challenge. Yeah, yeah. Let's see if you can live up to that promise of 3 essays. That sounds like a lot of very ambitious.
Yeah.
Any other questions at all? I see one more coming my way. Maybe this can be one of the last questions that I answer.
Yeah, sure.
What aspect of writing do you enjoy the most? That's a good question. That's a tough question. Remember, I said only easy questions. That's a hard one. And of course, each judge will have their own, their own preferences. I tend to love writing in which each sentence feels important and well crafted. Like I love, I love essays that reach an impressive idea or a conclusion, but I really value essays that are carefully crafted on a language level, in which each sentence is like lovingly and thoughtfully made. So language, like the use of language, to me makes good writing. It's not ideas. Everyone has ideas, but the writer is able to put those ideas into the right arrangement of words. That is what makes a writer, not the ideas, but how to find the language to articulate those ideas. These questions are so big and important. How do you make your writing interesting? well, I did try to address some of that in my talk, using concrete language, thinking about your senses. Actually, the slide that I shared with you, that the Play Foundation will share with you about being open, I think will lead to interesting writing. Be open to how you're feeling. Describe your feelings honestly. Be open to your senses. Be open to how other people may feel about this. You know, empathizing with people who wouldn't agree with you. Receiving feedback, being able to receive and accept feedback on your writing is oftentimes an ingredient there. But using language in an exciting way. I'm not talking about using the thesaurus to find the fanciest words possible. I'm talking about how can you best show your ideas, not tell about them, but show them in using creative writing. Of course, it's also hard to give one single piece of advice because the prompts are so different and they require such different approaches. But if your focus is on language, then I'll be a happy judge, a happy reader. And maybe perhaps that could be a stopping point, but would that be okay, EJ?
Yeah. And also keep this in mind. This is our 7th year, and we're going to have the 8th essay contest next year. So after this year's essay contest, we're going to actually share all the winning essays with our members and other participants, so that in maybe like a month, you're going to see how the judges actually pick the winners by reading those essays. And then also from this event, we would like actually to find some writers who actually want to lead our writers group for Play Foundation, because we used to have a wonderful writers group. And with those seniors graduated, we actually looking for new leaders to actually help with the writers group. So if you're interested in writing, make sure that you contact us, and also so do well in the essay writing.
That sounds like a great plan.
Okay.
A writers group. Great. Well,
all right.
it is 10. It's 10:11 on the East Coast.
Wow.
Whoa.
We really appreciate, Alex. really appreciate.
Oh, of course.
It's very informative. I think very interesting information. And then thank you for sharing with us your thoughts.
Of course, and I'll share with you the PowerPoint to share with any of these students.
Wonderful. All right.
Great.
Thank you so much. And then Marvin,
thank you,
would
everyone.
you like to do the closing?
Okay. So I guess, well, that's all we have for you guys today. Thank you for joining us, everyone. And thank you, Alex, for the wonderful, just really well put together and really informative slideshow.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I've mentioned, I'm so sorry, Marvin, to interrupt. I saw another inquiry about the classes, and the website I just posted is where you can find information about that.
All right, so thank you. And then we will email out all the prompts and then requirements and then Alex's contact information. So if you have any question, you can contact EJ or Marvin. So we will help answer any questions related to the essay contest. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night, Alex. Thank you so much.
You too. Bye, everyone.
Yeah, bye-bye.